Hi everybody, it's Mary from Nature's Ale, and I wanted to hop on and do a quick little video here of how to start hot peppers from seed. It's February, and if you live in a cold climate like I do, someplace where you'll be planting outside somewhere between April and June, then now is the perfect time to start your hot peppers from seed so that they'll be nice mature plants and you'll be able to harvest all season long. Now, I know peppers can be notoriously hard to germinate, and many gardeners have wasted time waiting for seeds that just never sprout. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 things that peppers need to germinate, and I'll tell you exactly how I germinate my hot pepper seeds so that you can follow along and get all the tips you need to make your gardening journey successful this year. Alright. So the first 3 things that peppers need to germinate are moisture, oxygen, and warmth. The seeds need moisture, and that's one of the main reasons why we store them in a cool, dry place. We don't want the seeds, the outer shell, exposed to moisture and have all that begin to germinate. When it is time to plant your seeds, you're going to want to place them in a glass of water overnight. This will help kind of soften up that outer shell and allow the seeds to swell up, causing the shell to crack, and then the roots can come out. Peppers also like to remain moist during the whole germination process, so just keep that in mind before we get started. The second thing that they will need is oxygen. No plants like compacted, wet, anaerobic soil. For that reason, you're going to want to make sure that you are using a light and airy seed starting mix. Our Nature's Ale seed starting mix is made up of peat, perlite, vermiculite, and screened compost, Nature's Ale compost. The tender roots of freshly sprouted seeds will grow much faster if it's given a seed starting mix that's light, easy to push through, and has a lot of access to oxygen. That's one of the main reasons why we add the vermiculite and perlite to the soil, is because it gives a nice place for those air pockets to form. The third thing that your seeds will need to germinate is warmth. A lot of these hot pepper varieties come from places like Mexico, Central America, around the equator, and they're adapted to those environments. As such, they prefer a lot warmer temperatures to germinate than our average house is kept at. Precisely, they really like to be between 80 and 90 degrees. So that is why I recommend getting a seed starting mat and using that to help keep your seeds at the proper temperature. I've really found that that's the most integral thing to my success, is that seed starting mat and keeping that soil level just really hot. The next biggest thing to think about is when you should be starting your hot pepper seeds for your climate. Hot peppers need about 8 weeks from germination to when you can transplant them outside, and super hot peppers need even longer, at about 10 weeks from germination. You also got to think that hot pepper plants take 7 to 14 days generally to germinate. Some varieties can take a lot longer, up to 28 days, and then some varieties, crazy, even 100 days. But most will be within 7 to 14 days. So just if you have a specialty variety, check about how long it'll take to germinate. But if you just have a regular jalapeno, Anaheim, something like that, chili peppers, those will be 7 to 14 days. So take that and then count back 10 weeks and your 2 weeks. So you're going to want to start 12 weeks from your last frost date, and that'll be the proper time to start your hot peppers. Alrighty, now for the best part, let me show you here. Got a video for you. We'll need your seed starting supplies. I did 2 trays of hot pepper seeds. You'll want to choose seed starting trays that are about 3 to 4 inches deep, and that's just so that you give those roots space to grow, since they have such a long time before they get transplanted outside. You'll also want some pre-moistened seed starting mix. Again, that's a mix of perlite, compost, vermiculite, peat, and it should be just moist enough that if you take a big handful and you squeeze it, no water drips out, but when you let it go, it'll still hold its shape in a ball, as you can see there. I did screen the compost before I mixed it, but a couple of sticks must have fallen through, so if you see anything like that, just go ahead, pull it out. You'll also need a Sharpie and toothpicks and masking tape for labeling your seeds after you plant them. There's nothing worse than getting to the end and finding mystery seeds. Here we have our pepper seeds that are soaked overnight. For this demonstration, I used cayenne peppers, Anaheim peppers, and jalapeno peppers. And you also need a spray bottle with water that you didn't see there, and that's just to help moisten the top of the soil after you've planted all of your hot pepper seeds. You can bottom water, but I really suggest using the spray bottle method. Here you can see we're starting to fill up our seed starting trays with the seed starting mix. You're going to fill up the cells all the way and then pack it down with your thumb and your forefinger until you feel just a bit of resistance. You don't want it to be compacted all the way down or pushed hard all the way down, because you do want that air space in there and you want the roots to be able to push through. But you do have to pack it down a little bit, or else the first time you water it, everything is just going to shrink. And you'll see here when I'm kind of packing it down that I'll want to get about 1/4 inch of the way down from the top of the tray. And that's just because when we put our seeds on top, they want to be about 1/4 inch deep. So you just pack it down here, speed up this process a little bit while we fill our second tray. Again, this mix that we're using is 4 parts green compost, 1 part perlite, 1 part vermiculite, and 2 parts peat moss. If you're making your own, be sure when you're mixing your seed starting mix to get all the way down to the bottom of the container, because sometimes you'll find pockets of like vermiculite or perlite or compost stuck down there, so just make sure you mix. Now's the best part, we get to plant our seeds. Again, these have been soaked overnight in a chamomile tea. You can use chamomile, ginger, turmeric, licorice, angelica, really any herbs with the strong antimicrobial properties. Soaking overnight in a herbal tea or even water helps to make sure that the seed coating is nice and moist, and if you are using a herbal tea, it helps to make sure there's no fungal or bacterial growth while they are sprouting, since hot pepper seeds can take so long. I'm putting here 3 seeds per tray, and that is to ensure that every cell has at least 1 successful hot pepper plant in it. Again, with that long wait time to, germination, those 2 weeks, and then those other 8 weeks, you don't want to spend all that time waiting on a cell with no viable seeds. If you do have multiple seeds that sprout per cell, then you can make the choice to pull out the 2 weakest seedlings and keep the strongest one, or you can wait a little bit, pull that seed out, and just cut it into 3 pieces, kind of following the roots. Here, after the seeds germinate, if multiple seeds germinate in a cell, we will simply clip off the weakest seedlings at the soil line, compost that matter, and that way we don't disturb the roots of our main plant, and it can just keep on growing. Now you can see I'm just putting a very thin layer of soil on top of the seeds and lightly packing it down. You don't want them to be buried super deep. They do their best when they're about a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch below the top of the soil. And you won't see it here, but after planting and covering them with soil, you're going to want to mist the top of the soil with a water bottle. You don't want to make the seeds soaking wet or dripping wet, but you just do want to make sure that the top is nice and moist and the seeds are watered in and that they're not going to dry out during the process of sprouting. Now, let's just finish planting our jalapeno seeds. Again, just putting 3 per seed cell. Sometimes it can be hard to pick up an individual seed. You can also get tweezers for this part. Probably next time that's what I'll do. I'll use tweezers so that it's easier and quicker to get through placing all these tiny pepper seeds. Next, we're going to be making the labels. And this is a quick and easy way of making labels if you're at home or you're on the fly and you need them. All you need is a Sharpie and some toothpicks and some masking tape. And we're just going to write the name of the seed variety on the masking tape. Here we're going to start with cayenne peppers. And then we're going to put the date that we germinated it just to keep track of how long it took. And then I'm going to rip off a piece twice the size as the name, really long piece. Stick it on your toothpick and then wrap the ends around so that they're sticking to each other. Do that for all of your different seed varieties. We got Anaheim coming up next. And finally jalapenos on the end. If I did this again, I would probably orient the seeds a little bit differently, and I would have definitely made a second label for the Anaheim peppers since they're split over 2 seed trays, just in case the trays get moved around or whatever while they're sprouting. I won't have any mystery seeds. But there you have it. That's all you need to do the actual planting part of hot pepper seeds. So, what's next? Well, germination can take between 7 and 28 days depending on when the optimal conditions are. Hot pepper seeds like to germinate when the soil is between 80 and 90 degrees in the daytime and 70 to 80 degrees at night. They don't really do well when temps drop down below 60 degrees, so just make sure they're in a nice warm spot on that heating mat. If you do have a seed mat, they're super easy to use. They come with a little dial. Just stick that into one of the corner of the seed cells, and whenever your soil drops below 80 degrees, it'll kick on, and when it gets above 80 degrees, it'll kick off. Does all the thinking for you. You'll want to cover those seeds with a humidity dome and check on them every day after the first week to make sure the seeds are sprouting. Also during this time, you're going to want to at least open that dome cover once a day and do an air exchange, just because, again, you don't want an anaerobic environment and you really want to make sure that they're getting the oxygen that they need. After you see your seedlings sprout, you're going to want to take off the humidity dome and place them under bright fluorescent lights for 12 to 16 hours a day. During the time that they're under those lights, you're probably going to have to spray them 1 to 2 times a day. They're a little bit picky, but it really is worth it in the end. If at any point, even before the humidity dome is off, just sitting on that seed mat, they shouldn't dry out, but if any point you notice the top of your soil drying out, just give it a couple of extra sprays with the water. You really don't want those roots to dry out or that soil to start wicking moisture away from your seedlings. After your seedlings have sprouted and you have them under your fluorescent lights, you're going to want to make sure your lights are close but not close enough to burn them. I use a T5 grow light and I keep it about that far away. If this is the top of my plants, my seedlings, about that far away. I know it seems really close, but they don't burn, and you don't want them to be long and lanky, or else you'll have problems when they start to mature. They'll flop over, and just not a good thing. You'll want to maintain the temperatures at 70 to 80 degrees during the day, and around nighttime, no less than 60 degrees. They do like to have some temperature drop because that's the environment that they've adapted to, but just no big swings in either direction. And yeah, after 8 weeks, your plants will be ready to transplant outside, and you'll have your first harvest of hot peppers of the 2023 season. So thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just let me know down in the comments, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Bye! Have a great day.